The next session will be looking at the hacking framework itself and some considerations with how to approach this challenge. And with that, I would like to introduce Ricky Jones, who is a Regional Managing Director of GCI Health APAC. Ricky.
Thanks so much, Dan, and a pleasure to be with you all today. So as Dan has just mentioned, what I'm essentially going to take you through for the next few slides are some key considerations for your group work in terms of how you problem solve and arrive at the most robust ideation solutions possible. What I'm going to talk you through are really tried and tested measures when it comes to problem solving and decision making, but they are guidance for you. They're absolutely not mandated. How you work in your own groups is completely up to you, but we hope the content of this next section at the very least provides you some really helpful considerations to discuss with your groups ahead of the hack or as you start to really problem solve together. So obviously, by applying a really robust framework to how you're approaching the challenges that you're assigned and looking at your opportunities for the use of analytical tools as you go is going to be the most, or allow you to arrive at the strongest possible idea. So what I'm going to take you through on the slides following this one is a quick step approach, looking upwards of this framework and having a quick peek at some of the analytical tools that can be at your disposal for each. So starting first and foremost with the root cause analysis, really making sure that you're taking the time to understand the root cause of the problem that you are taking on. From there, having a quick look at what a SWOT analysis can do for you so that you're able to really understand the landscape, the environment surrounding your challenge and the implications for your ideation. From there, a quick look at some really simple tools and checks to ensure that your decision making is as powerful and as efficient as it can possibly be, so you can then turn your ultimate solution into a winning presentation. All right, so first looking at our root cause analysis. Obviously, in the tackling of any challenge, what you're really going to need to do as your first point of call is with your group colleagues, is take some time out to pause and reflect as to whether you really understand the root cause of your challenge. And the reason why we always undertake a root cause analysis, particularly when it comes to topics of health, is to give us the best possible opportunity to address the root cause problem that's going to ensure that the problem itself has the least possible scenario or least possible potential of arising again in the future. So just as one example of that, or one example analysis tool that you can use, a very simple one at that, to get to your root cause problem, is the 5 whys. So this technique here is a very simple, very effective technique, originally introduced by the Toyota Corporation, actually. And the premise behind this concept is that the continuous asking of why will better lead down all of the layers to the actual root cause problem that we are looking to address. Again, with that objective of ensuring that we're tackling the problem in a way that minimizes its potential to come back in the future. So if we have a quick look at how that can play out in reality, on this next slide here, we take a look at some root cause issues related to childhood malnutrition. So for example, if we were to ask ourselves why, just that one time when we try to scratch underneath the surface of the issue, we arrive at some meaningful issues that we could certainly invest time in tackling, those issues that you can see here in the blue boxes. However, if we really challenge ourselves to keep asking why, we get further along this slide to some more fundamental issues that if we tackle those versus those issues that we see in the blue boxes, we are really minimizing the potential for the issue to come back in as big a force in the future. Now, some of those root cause issues as healthcare professionals, we might not be able to adequately address. For example, you can see drought here on this slide. We're not going to be tackling the issue of drought. However, there are some other issues towards the right-hand side of this slide that as healthcare professionals, we can have a really important role in playing. For example, the education of mothers in terms of how important exclusive breastfeeding can be if a mother is physically and mentally able to do so. So looking at our next step in that cascade we looked at earlier on, here we have a SWOT analysis, which is a process that you might want to undertake in your groups to better understand the environment around your issue. And typically, we would always encourage you to hypothetically put yourself in the shoes of an organization, an existing organization or a new imaginary organization to complete a SWOT analysis. So the organization would obviously need to be one that could have a leading role in producing a change or solution for your challenge. And the reason why it's very helpful to put yourself in the shoes of a organization, hypothetical or real, is because the strengths and the weaknesses in a SWOT exercise are essentially from an internal organization perspective, while the opportunities and the threats look to the external world. So just to use, again, a really hypothetical example to bring that to life. If I hypothetically decided that I am working or representing the Singapore government, a strength when it comes to increasing vaccination uptake might be that, typically speaking, the Singaporean population has good trust in their government, so that anything or any messages that are put out into the community are typically well received and trusted as credible. Whereas a weakness might be, again, hypothetically in the shoes of the Singapore government, that resources are finite. And obviously we are living through a pandemic environment where resources need to be diverted. Whereas opportunities, so looking beyond the Singaporean government, the opportunities are endless here. This is where we really start to brainstorm and get into the exciting creative ideation of what's possible. And then a threat, looking at the external environment again, and to pick on COVID again, given it is so much about 2020, the pandemic could obviously be a really considerable threat that we need to give consideration to, given it is taking a lot of stakeholder attention across the entire vaccine ecosystem for all of the understandable and obvious reasons, but at the same time, our influenza prevention requirements don't change. So going up the ladder to decision making. So once you have really understood the root cause of your problem, once you have explored the environment around the root cause of your problem and started to look at your possible solutions with the support of a SWOT, you will hopefully have a really long list of possible creative ideas that you want to take forward. And part of the key to being able to put forward a compelling and winning idea will be having a really crystallized singular vision. So that will mean a lot of your great ideas will probably need to end up on the cutting room floor so that you can really focus on what your strongest possible solutions are and really laser in on those. So once you've got a short list of possible solutions, we really encourage you here to test each one, to pressure test each one. Make sure that you're looking at those possible solutions from the eyes of multiple different stakeholders in regards to whether they'll work. And of course, really importantly, make sure that you're looking really critically at each of those possible solutions through the eyes of the judging criteria for the hack itself. Then once you have decided on your compelling, potentially winning idea, obviously you then have the opportunity, all going well, to present it to the judges. Now you have a very short amount of time to convey your very compelling idea to our judges. And this slide here covers just some very high level tips to keep in mind when it comes to your presentation opportunity. It's really important to be concise, particularly when you've got a short amount of time. Make every word, every sentence solutions matter. Don't fill time giving background context or too much surround sound. Get straight to the matter at hand. Be interesting. While you've got a really shorter amount of time, remember that the judges will be seeing lots of presentations in quick succession, and you need to do something that enables you to stand out. So a small amount of theatrics or storytelling incorporated into your presentation could go a really long way. Be real. Really, really remember, and I can't stress how important this is, that the entire premise of the hack is to come up with solutions that can work in the real world. So it's up to you in your presentation, in your thinking processes, to ensure that what you're putting forward can be a solution in the external world as it exists around us today. And that needs to come across really clearly in terms of how well you have thought about that and pressure tested that in your presentation. And lastly, and very importantly, be engaging. Again, remember your judges will be sitting through a lot of great content, but a lot of content all the same. Invite your judges to be a part of the session. Engage them. Don't just make it a one-way dialogue. And while that is a very quick and concise run through some of the presentation considerations that will be key for you, hopefully they provide a really helpful framework for you to start thinking about some potential creative ways to bring your eventual ideation to life at this point in time. So having walked through those 4 buckets of key framework considerations, what we have made available to you for your ideation and your group work is a set of templates. Just to very quickly talk you through what they look like. First of all, what will be made available to you is a very basic schematic to remind you of how root cause analysis works, and a prompt to keep asking why. And behind that, an actual template that allows you to map out the different opportunities you arrive at every time you ask why behind each of the problems that you're working to address, so that you're able to really hone in on those true root causes and not the superficial ones, because it's those true root causes that are going to work best in the real world and are going to be most sustainable. We've provided you a second root cause analysis template here, just to really crystallize the root causes that you ultimately arrive at, so that you can ensure all of your hacking time in your groups is very carefully centered around those, and you've always got that very clear reference point at your fingertips. And we've also given you a really basic SWOT template here too. Again, remembering that a SWOT will work best if you can hypothetically put yourselves into the shoes of an organization who might have a key role in driving forward the types of solutions that you're ideating around. You don't need to hypothetically present yourself as an organization when it comes to your presentations. This is simply an exercise to help you better understand the environment that exists around your root causes and your potential creative solutions. So with that, I'm going to hand you back to Dan, who can very quickly facilitate some cues if you've got any specific questions in regards to what I've just walked through. Appreciate there is a lot more content to come in regards to how the hack itself will work, and particularly when it comes to sharing our problem statements a little bit later in the session today.
Thank you, Ricky. I will come back into frame. So brilliant. So thanks. Really, really useful. I'm sure everyone appreciates all of the various strategies and ways to approach that. One quick question that's come in, if you don't mind, you can come back in.
Sure.
That's a really valuable set of templates and frameworks. If our teams have a different set that they're more comfortable with, is that okay from the hacking perspective?
It absolutely is. So what we've worked to deliver you here are simply some tools for guidance, just so that you have a starting framework versus needing to invest time in creating your own frameworks. But please feel free to use what works best for you.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you very much. If you have any questions from anyone on the line, please, as before, pop them in the chat. We have one more question that's come in as we've been talking. So you mentioned that external factors should be taken into account while explaining the SWOT analysis. Should we look at the national healthcare ecosystems as a whole, or narrow our focus to a local scenario in order to build a better solution?
I think the answer here is very specific to the problem statement that you ultimately take on. And I think while there's certainly value in looking across a national ecosystem as a whole, we also need to remember that finite solutions are going to have perhaps a smaller set of stakeholders that need to be considered in order for your solutions to work. So I would encourage you to try and really drill down to the stakeholders within that ecosystem that are going to matter most to your problem and your potential solution. But you might need to start from a broader ecosystem perspective in order to be able to dwindle those down in your thought process.
Brilliant. Perfect. Oh, we have one more question, and then we'll move on to the next section. So, shouldn't root cause analysis be based on SWOT? Then why SWOT comes after root cause analysis? Can you just talk about the sort of timings and how best to approach that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the root cause analysis should absolutely 100% be your first point of call, because what you need to crystallize first and foremost is what is the actual reason for the problem. And without answering that question, basically any analysis that you do from there, runs the risk of being off. So all of your ideation, your solution generation should be trying to tackle that root cause. So once you've got that root cause and that problem, that will then allow you to move into a SWOT analysis, where you are essentially evaluating the environment around that root cause issue.
Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you very much, Ricky.
Pleasure.
And I appreciate there's a lot to think about for the teams on the line. And so if you do have any questions as the session goes on, or between now and the event itself, please obviously get in touch, and we can make sure that you are completely comfortable and clear with the processes of the hack. Okay, brilliant. So thank you very much. We'll now move on to the next section.